This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. This is going to be very insightful, what we're going to talk about today. And it applies to everybody in terms of why we do what we do in relationships. And that being said, we're also going to look at it through the eyes of dating. Dating, very much a challenge now. Dating apps are almost going away. A lot of people aren't even gravitating back toward them just because of so many issues with them. And maybe this is part of it. We're talking about attachment styles and your nervous system and how that pilots us in all of our relationships, not just dating, but in general. She knows more about that, way more about that than me. She offers counseling services, helps people navigate through relationships, and so much more. Barbara Lanz is back with us. Am I saying that right? Is it Lanz or Lanz?
Usually it's Lanz, but I answer to either one.
Well, Barbara Lanz, welcome back. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm great. It's good to be back.
Wonderful to have you back here. And this is definitely something that a lot of us struggle with when it comes to relationships. Put dating over to the side for just a moment. We'll circle back to that in a sec. In relationships in general, be it professional, personal, does attachment styles always have a place there?
Good. They can. Definitely. Because your attachment style was learned in your early years. It doesn't mean it can't change, but what you learned as a way of relating to other people. If it was dysfunctional, it can be triggered. Your boss can trigger you. The driver in the car next to you can trigger you. And there's lots of ways that people respond. And then later on they think, or they react, and then they wish, oh, maybe that wasn't the best way to react.
Now, when we say we respond in certain ways, ultimately, is that response a safety mechanism, a self-protection mechanism? And that's why we're doing it. That's why we have these attachment styles.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is deep-seated in childhood.
It starts there, but it can be altered along the way by any adult that comes into your life that is that gives you a healthy sense of self. It can be altered by teachers. It can be altered by communities. So just because you grew up in an unhealthy attachment pattern doesn't mean that you will take that on. But the problem has been that if you do and you don't know it, then you find yourself anxious all the time, avoidant, shut down. There's lots of couple of different prominent patterns.
Gotcha. So when we talk about attachment styles, what are we really talking about underneath these labels? And I've heard, all different types of attachment styles. I can't even honestly remember all of them because it gets a little deep there in terms of the different types. But what's actually going on there?
Well, it's the way that you feel safe, and you might need to withdraw to feel safe. And if you're feeling rejected, you might chase. There's the pursue withdraw component. The anxious attachment person tends to need another person to help them feel better, to self-regulate. So they look for people to attach to. The avoidant attachment type is shuts down, and they learn to shut down probably as a child to be safe because it hurt too much to feel. And so often those two patterns, they find each other.
Well, I've never heard that before. So let's look at that for just a second. I find that fascinating. So though we have two different people here, let's say personal relationship, they each have the two attachment styles you referred to. They essentially seek each other out because they're trying to fulfill something within themselves and connected to each respective attachment style?
It's biology. I kind of referenced Stan Tatkin's books, Wired for Love, Wired for Dating, but each person's nervous system attunes to something it feels familiar with. And avoidant don't usually attract each other because an avoidant doesn't want somebody else that's shut down. They want somebody that's more alive. And the anxious doesn't usually look for another anxious because that's too much anxiety in the relationship. So they kind of balance each other out, and it starts great for a while. But then when each partner goes into their own protective mechanisms, then they start to have trouble. And then there's just not a lot of information out there. I mean, you have to take a course to get your driver's license, but you don't have to take a course, to be in a relationship or to be a parent.
Mm.
And so there's not a lot of education. I mean, the fascinating part for me in learning all of this is that I didn't know what I was getting into at 19 when I got married. I had no idea.
Yep.
Except to watch what was around me.
And you were still a kid.
Very much so. Yeah.
It's I laugh when somebody says, "You realize something? You are acting just like a child." Well, yes, I am, as a matter of fact. Thank you for saying that. You could be 40, 50, 60, 80. In a lot of ways, we are acting like children because we're acting on what we internalized as children, which still pilots us today, the subconscious. And I guess that's where the attachment styles, a lot of it comes from.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when the child part is triggered um, in the internal family systems world, we call that part is driving the bus. So if you are reactive, which being aware that you're reactive and figuring out what part of you is driving the bus, then you can back up and say, oh, okay, let's take this a different direction.
Mm. So let's say we'll give an example here. And again, I'm intrigued about what you said before, how those with certain attachment styles seek others out. Let's say you have a fear of abandonment, which is fairly common. A lot of different reasons for that. I don't know what attachment style that would be called, but that's there. That's in you. You're afraid maybe your parents, one parent left when you were young, and you have that fear. What's that attachment style called, and who would seek you out? Obviously, you know what you're looking for, consciously or not, but what would that be called?
Well, it could be either, and it depends how it shows up. The fear of abandonment is going to show up anytime that you can't take care of yourself. So as a child, you have to be taken care of. And when you're not taken care of, and when children are neglected or they don't, children should be seen and not heard, their needs aren't attended to,
Hmm.
then there's that innate sense of activation in the nervous system because it fears abandonment. And when children instinctively know if they're abandoned, they're going to die. Not many children figure out how to survive, although some do very early. But the fear of that abandonment, if you take that with an anxious attachment, then they're going to be the pulling towards. They're going to be chasing somebody. And when they text and text and text and they don't hear back, that anxiety gets worse.
Mm.
And when you don't show up or you say you're going to be there, but something happens and you're in a car accident and you can't make the appointment, then they get that part, that anxious part can go drive the bus, so to speak. But it can show up. But so that's how they respond to abandonment. The other side of that is the one that when you abandon them, they just, oh, okay, lost another one. They just shut down. They don't care and they go on. So
Mm.
there's different ways to respond to abandonment.
Gotcha. Now we're gonna look at this through the lens of dating, and this also, I guess, would explain why some people say, and I hear it from both sides, men and women. And it's kind of the same where I don't know what's going on out there. These people are all the same. They're crazy. They're just it's everybody's playing games with each other. Nobody's intentional about dating. I hear this on both sides, but that sounds like the same person is showing up in their lives, and it's for a reason. They're attracting it. They're bringing it in, or they're seeking it out. Would you say that that's essentially what's going on?
Yeah, it's unconscious though. They don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah, 100%.
And so when you find yourself repeating the same, attracting the narcissist or the self-centered person, when you find yourself in the same situation over and over again, then you have to look at what you're doing that has brought this in. Mostly in today's dating world, I think everything moves fast paced. It just moves really fast. I grew up in a different time zone, time era where things moved much slower because we didn't have all these cell phones and all that stuff. So you actually had to wait for a phone call and be home when the call came in.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't be on the run. So it was a different world, but in today's world, but nevertheless, the intensity was still there, at least for me. Being in recovery from addiction, I like things to happen fast, and I want this now, and that's just the addict personality, that part of my personality. So yeah, intensity, if anything, I would say to slow things down and move slower.
Mm.
You can't know somebody immediately, and people can fool you, and people can lie, and they can misrepresent. And if you invest heavily and you don't know what's going on, then you're setting yourself up to be hurt. And then people say, well, I don't want to date because then it hurts. It's like life hurts. There's a lot of pain in life. And the thing that I heard this in one of my counseling classes one time, it was like the degree to which you will be able to be successful and enjoy life is the degree to which you can grieve your losses and move on.
Ooh, yeah.
There's a lot of loss in life.
You're bringing up something that I realized this year. We're all grieving. Every one of us, daily basis. We just don't know it. But what is grief? Grief is loss. So you could be grieving a relationship. You could be grieving, let's say you left a job a couple of years ago and that made a mark on you. That's a loss in your life. A parent could have passed 20 years ago and you miss them and all of that. You're still grieving them. It could even be you got older and you don't move around like you used to. Loss of mobility. There's grief there. So I can you say that again? What you said about how you deal with grief and loss and how your life moves forward.
Well, the degree to which you will be able to function well and succeed in life depends on how well you know how to grieve, because there's a lot of loss in life. It's one of the main causes of depression. And you look at how much depression is in the world.
Yep.
A lot of depression, and the inability to let go of something that no longer exists. So grief is honoring it. When you're sad about something, that speaks to the value of something that you lost. I've heard last thing I heard about parents that lose a child, it takes 5 years to grieve that loss.
Sure.
And it takes time.
Yeah.
And if you don't allow yourself to feel, if you're shut down or if you're using work, relationships, alcohol, drugs to not feel, and you don't feel, then it's going to take even longer.
And I think the other thing we should mention here is forgiveness. Forgiving somebody else. You might be grieving a relationship. Maybe they did you wrong. Horrible. Horrible. You don't condone it, but you need to forgive so you can close that door on the grief, and maybe even forgive yourself for certain things that you may be grieving.
Well, and I think one of the topics that probably needs more discussion is forgiving yourself.
Hmm.
Because I do believe, by and large, that most of us do the best we can with what we have and what we know. But we still fall short. We still make mistakes. We still wish we hadn't done something. And then it's that little internal family system that's called the critical voice, and we lives up here behind our ear, and you shouldn't have done that. You shoulda, you shoulda, you shoulda. So we have a lot of criticism of ourselves, which doesn't make us feel any better. It's called the critical voice is driving the bus.
Sure. The monkey chatter, if you will.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're talking about attachment styles and how it can go wrong. It can get in the way of meeting somebody special, your dating life, and all of that. What does a secure attachment style look like in dating?
Well, you know who you are, they know who they are. You have a mutual ability to support each other. You have it's like there's you and there's the other person, and then there's the relationship. And you're supportive of each other. If you get triggered, you know what your triggers are. You know, you can talk about it and you feel safe. You know that while you might get hurt in the relationship, you really have to feel secure that the other person is not intentionally going to harm you. The difference between hurt and harm, you know, and that's where the attachment to an abusive person that doesn't make sense comes in, because that you're being harmed in that relationship. And, you know, there's a lot of biology to attachment to people that harm you, but it does happen. It's really hard for some of those relationships to end.
Sure. Can you give an example? Let's look at the secure attachment style in dating. How would that look?
A secure would be the person that say you have something planned, you have an event planned, and you're waiting, and the person doesn't come and they don't show up, and you don't hear from them, and on they just don't show up and they don't call. So you can react by texting and carrying on and getting all mad at the person, or you can just believe that they had intention to keep their, you know, the date, the promise, whatever, and they couldn't. And you'd wait, and you just wait for them and find out that, you know, somebody died in the family, they had a car accident, I don't know, something happened. But you know that the person's intentions are good and that they would have called you if they could have. So that's what you do. You sit and wait. When you get upset with a secure attached person would be able to say, I was really scared when you didn't show up. And the other person cannot get defensive, but say, oh, I understand. I hear you. I would have called you if I could, but you know, my boss had a meeting with the president or something, you know, and I had to be there. I don't know. You wait for the explanation. You know, your life doesn't derail because you don't get a phone call or a text the minute that you want to, or
Sure.
you feel like you need to. I had another example on my mind about secure.
Well, I would even think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you can negotiate. And a secure attachment, you know how to negotiate, because you're not going to get everything you want. The partner you're with is not going to get everything they want. You got to negotiate.
Interesting way to look at it. You know, and the, you know, part of that negotiation could be, you know, make sure you call me. You know, I'm waiting. I care about you. But I also view this too early in the dating game. Let's say you connect with somebody, you text a little bit, um, then maybe they ghost you, or something happens. Now, not secure attachment would be freak mode. I got rejected. I can't believe this, all again. Or you just like, whatever. Like moving on.
Oh well. Oh well.
Oh, well,
Oh
exactly.
well.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
another thing I heard, and heard some good things in school. Two words need to be used much more in life are oh well.
Yeah.
I can't do any, you cannot control people, places, and things.
Nope.
Thinking you can, is not gonna, it's gonna keep you upset.
Yeah. It's you move on, but easier said than done until you figure it out. I remember a while back, I was talking with somebody, met on a dating app, talking a little bit, hadn't gotten to a phone call yet. We're getting ready for that, texting a little bit. And then they started getting a little distant. Well, that's interesting. The conversation was kind of nice. Then I started seeing their posts on Facebook and Instagram, and the majority, if not all of them, were memes that they were sharing. And most of it was, ooh, best way to describe this, negative toward men. Like obviously they got hurt bad, and they have this just, wall up. And I looked at that and I'm like, oh, that's a shame. Nice person, pretty. Yeah, well, you know what? That's not for me. Because I'm not that
Yeah.
person. I'm not that man that, did you wrong. And that was, I'm glad I saw that because not that it mattered, like, and not that I beat myself up and felt rejected. It was an oh well, but now it was a truly justified oh well after seeing those posts.
Yeah. It is, when there's another saying, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Oh, Barbara, wow. Pause button,
So,
hit it right there.
yeah.
Uh, I want your thoughts on this based on what you just said. It's
Yeah.
my belief in my journey that everybody shows you who they are in the beginning. It's there. It's like they want you to know, maybe not intentionally or maybe it's subconsciously, but they're telling you, they're showing you who they are. We don't see it because a lot of times you might meet somebody, you're smitten. Oh, this is great. It's like the love of my life, angel drop from the sky. Pay attention. I'm not being negative here. Just pay attention. That's it. What are your thoughts? Do people show you who they are?
Um, I think they do, but I'm not sure that it's always in the beginning.
Okay.
I think there are people that are really, really crafty to get what they want. And they can shower you with attention, which makes the dopamine in the brain flow and it feels good.
Mm,
But I think that we don't see it when the dopamine's flowing, it makes you feel good. And so
100%.
we don't always see it. But looking back on it, then you can think, oh, okay, yeah, there were clues. So it's really paying attention to the clues, and it's really vetting people before you really get serious with them. You
True.
got to bring them around your friends and family,
They're going to
and
see things.
you got to listen. The hard thing about all of that, though, is that by the time you get to that point, I don't know, 6 months, a year, whatever, you've been together, you've been dating, and all of a sudden your family and friends start to see things and you don't want to hear it because at that point you're already starting to be attached. By that point, you don't want to start over. You
Mm,
don't want to lose that person,
yep.
which makes it really hard. So,
I guess it also is essential to you knowing who you are. And they always say, love yourself, love who you are. And it's cliche, but I believe it's true. And once you do, things don't bother you as much. That what you just described may not hurt as much because you realize, well, you know what? I'm not, that's not me. I'm not aligning with that. I'm going to move on from this. But if you don't have a true sense of self, a lot of times you'll just go with it and go with the flow. And I learned it. It took me decades to figure that out. And a long-term relationship in the very beginning, I was shown just what you said. This is wonderful. This is fantastic. Oh, and years went by. There were no more outwardly signs. And then when there was, years have gone by, we'll recover. We'll move forward on. No, no, no. It was already there. I just didn't. I chose not to see it. Of course I saw it. Chose not to see it.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Well, and you can't always see it if you have what's called an activated nervous system in fight or flight. If you're really activated, then your nervous system is set on survival. And then your frontal lobe doesn't work as well to see what's really going on.
Mm. Now, a final question on that, because we're almost out of time and we'll have to pick up. There's so much here to talk about.
Okay.
The fight or flight, and you're in a relationship. Let's say you saw some signs, but like you just said, 6 months in, meet the family, they're telling you something. You're like, no, that's just it's not that important. What's going on there with your nervous system, the fight or flight? Is it saying, I got to stay with this person because, I can't be alone, or I need this to survive? What's going on?
Well, your brainstem, it does not know the difference between somebody in traffic or somebody who avoided you for a while. It's your frontal lobe, this part, it doesn't work when you're in fight or flight because the brainstem thinks that you're running from the tiger in the desert. It doesn't really understand what's going on. The Body Keeps a Score is kind of the book about trauma that explains all of that.
Oh, yeah.
In detail, which I'm sure everybody's heard of. But yeah, it's hard to have access to your logic thinking when you're running.
Why would you feel like you're running? Let's say you're in a relationship. You're 6 months in. Friends and family saying, hey, just want you to know, I don't know if this is the best fit for you, but you're afraid to let that go. Is the fight or flight kicking in at that point?
Probably, because in the world of attachment, you're attached so much to the other person. If you need them to calm you down, and that's your survival pattern,
Gotcha.
That's what you're familiar with.
Got it. Okay.
That's your normal.
Mm. And gosh forbid the person you're with is a narcissist and you don't know it. They're going to reel you in.
Well, there's a whole nother topic, the narcissist codependent dance. So there's a whole subject there.
For another time.
Yeah.
You help many with relationships, attachment styles, understanding all of this. What's the best way to find you, Barbara?
You can find me on my website. Contact me through there, barbarajlanz.com. And I take many insurances through a couple different providers. So we can contact me there. We can figure it out. And I have a sliding scale and I also have some groups that are affordable.
Beautiful. So important, especially if you're looking for the right kind of relationship and it hasn't shown up, or the bad ones, not being negative, but the ones that didn't support you have shown up. There's a reason why. Barbara J. Lanz, LANZ.com. Barbara, thanks for being here today, and great topic, and looking forward to digging back into it next time we get together.
All right. Thank you. Enjoyed being here.
Likewise. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.